beyond all that, I think the evangelistic aspect of this work, God was even more purposeful in planting me here. And I go into this in the book. My wife Lynette passed away last year due to a battle with brain cancer. We like a couple days ago, we just passed like the 1 year anniversary of her going home to heaven. Let me start by telling a story about a dream. I don't remember if I recount this in the book, but this would have been about 6 or 7 years ago. And I'm not a big prophetic dreamer. Like in my social circles, people are big dreamers. I'm typically not that guy. But I had this very strange dream when we lived in Illinois. And in the dream, I am talking to my children. I understand in the context of the dream that Lynette's not with me anymore and that she's in heaven. And in the dream, I'm asking my kids about getting like almost for to get their blessing to get remarried. And so that's the whole context of the dream. It was very weird. I wrote it down in my journal. And I was like, huh, well, that was strange. And I kind of forgot about it. And I remember the day that Lynette got her diagnosis because she had collapsed at home and had a seizure. And so we went ambulance ride, ER, all the things. And eventually we find out she has this stage 4 tumor. And like when we get the bad news and the doctor's like, if you're lucky, you're gonna live a year, basically if you do surgery and chemo and radiation, you'll literally be lucky to live 12 months. Like that was the prognosis. But I remember thinking, "Oh, wow, I had this dream like 6 years ago or however long it was," and put me into an interesting place where on the one hand, I prayed and interceded and everybody was praying and interceding and believing for healing. Like in my church circles and work circles, we see healing quite regularly through prayer. And so always pursuing that, always go after that until the moment your loved one crosses over to heaven. Like there's always a chance that they could be healed. But it also put me in this strange circumstance because of that dream, whether that was a warning dream or a foreshadowing. I was also praying into my future in the season I'm in now. So I feel to me, as I look back, that was a grace of God to get my heart in a place where, I was ready to accept if it was her time to go home to heaven, that's okay. That's also an answer to prayer. And I think that's something we've kind of lost the plot on a bit in the church, like a good solid theology of death and dying, that sometimes it is the appointed time for our loved one to go home to heaven. And that's a sufficient answer to prayer. Once they cross that veil, they're healed and whole on the other side, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So, don't feel like if that's your circumstance, like it was for us, that you've been awarded the bronze medal or you've been given what's second best. That's a totally sufficient and wonderful answer to prayer because they're healed and whole. They're with Jesus. That's a sufficient reward to say the least. But where it brought real comfort in Lynette's and my journey is just over the course, because when you have a brain tumor, you're slowly kind of losing it. Things you're it's you're, the cancer is winning and your body starts to break down, especially with the brain. Your mental faculties decrease over time. But while we were able to have a lot of meaningful conversations, just having several years very much immersed in the NDE space, I was able to answer lots of questions that Lynette had, things she was thinking about in terms of what does it feel like to die? Like what happens? What's it like in heaven? And so I really had this whole body of knowledge where I was able to answer all of her questions, the things she was wrestling with to just minister to her and encourage her. She had two distinct experiences that I share in the book where, I don't know if because and these would have been probably 8 to 10 months before she actually died. She had an out of body experience and she encountered her welcoming committee, which are both typical parts of a near death experience journey. So, one morning she talked to me about how in the night she could see that I was in the same room with her, like she was above my body, but she couldn't get my attention or wake me or cause me to stir in any way. And so, had I not spent all this time, thinking about NDEs and talking to people, I wouldn't have even probably had the language to be like, "Well, it sounds like you had an out of body experience," and to talk through that with her. And then she also had an experience where, just with how she shared it, it seemed like it was almost like an open vision more than like a dream while she was sleeping. But in this vision, she is at the gates of heaven and she encounters her maternal grandparents, her father, and her older brother. Her older brother had been hit by a car when she was 18 months old. So she hadn't seen him for a long time. And so she encounters them at the entrance to heaven. And the way I processed it with her was like, it seems like God is giving you kind of a foreshadowing of what's to come when you cross over to the other side. And so both of those, were great comforts to her and to me. And so God really used the near death experience space to prepare me to minister to my wife for 19 months while she was battling cancer. And I would say too, just with what I've seen with my own work in ministry in this space and the work that Randy Kay and I have done together, and I know Julie, the work you've done, the majority of the people who are attracted to the near death experience conversation, I've found a lot of them, it's because they've lost a loved one. You know, it's very typical for them to say, you know, oh, my mother died, my grandmother died, whoever it might be, somebody they love, somebody that's close to them. But they're just looking for that reassurance that they're okay, that they're in heaven and they're with Jesus. And that's where they stumble upon, you know, shows like Everyday Miracles or Two Christian Dudes, and they listen to these testimonies, and it encourages them, and it really bolsters their faith that their loved one is in heaven and that they are with Jesus.